Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we've got play props here on a 10-game slate on Wednesday for you guys. We also have best bets up in another video, so go ahead and like and subscribe to the page and continue to follow along all season with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Use that prop finder tool that we have under the NBA tab there. Make sure you're getting the best odds and juice available to you from all these books that you're making bets with this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first NBA play prop here.
Yeah, it's a combo for Trae Young here in SGP. But under, all of his props, it 25 points, 8 assists, 2 threes, and then the Hawks to win the game. It gets you plus 150. I'll go half a unit there. And I expect the Magic to do a better job on him than they have in the past 3, where he's just torched them, 36 points a game, 10 assists on 38% usage. Because, Jalen Suggs is a great individual defender, and the Magic have done a good job limiting point guards for the most part, and they're probably going to sell out and try to stop Trae. But like I'm saying, under all of his props, but still to have a productive game as he kind of rides the momentum of that really good second half against the Spurs, where he broke out of his slump from 3. That's really key here. His last 7, he had been taking 9 threes a game, shooting 26%, and had not really been getting the 3 threes, but that he had hit in 10 straight prior to that. So I think, 3 threes, if you want to play around with SGP, get better odds, definitely in play, because his uptick in 3-point percentage when he's had Jalen Johnson in the lineup is pretty notable. He's shooting 38% when JJ's out there. The assists is something you can bank on in terms of 8. He's gone under 8 assists 3 times this season. Happens 2 of them were against the Pacers, who just somehow do a great job on point guards and get torched by every other position. And then the Magic to lose here, despite beating the Hawks at home without Franz, they're 1-3 since, 96 points per game on a 104 rating. Their only win against the Brunsonless Knicks in a really low scoring game. And they've kind of been torched, even with Franz or not. I mean, you see these kind of do everything point guards or point centers in Joker's case. They kind of still torch Jalen Suggs and company. And Suggs is going to have to spend some time on DeJounte Murray. But, I mean, they get their numbers. I won't say they torch him. Everybody gets their numbers when they're an MVP candidate. SGA, 37-7. Joker at 30-8. Steph had 36-6 this month against Orlando. So I'm saying Trae can still put up some numbers here, even if he doesn't get to his lofty props.
Yeah, he does need to make some. He either needs to make threes or get to the free throw line, right? This number isn't all the way up to 30 where he has to go bonkers. So if he is doing one or the other, he should be in a good position. He's been scoring more than giving it up to guys like Clint Capella, right, in the dunker spot. So yeah, I still the only thing that scares you is you're how many times in a row can this hit? This is something that keeps happening. That's really the only thing that scares you, is almost like if you had a bad game or 2 for some reason and there was the clear positive regression was coming, you'd almost feel better about it. But just ride it out, man. Keep hitting black until it falls on red, like we say. So, and then when it hits red, maybe it'll go back to black next time. But either way, let me go to my first one here and talk about Steph Curry assists, which is an under I've been taking, but I'm going over in this one because things have changed without Chris Paul. So over 5.5 dimes for Wardell, Steph, and Curry. Look at the, Josh rebound chance, potential assist Lander at your service, because the potential assists are what I look at in the last 5 games without CP3, 2 games really, because even in the games he was playing right after CP3 left, Toronto, New Orleans, blowouts, not even games worth watching by the second quarter. And he still got his 6 dimes in those on roughly 10 potential assists, right? But then you fast forward to the next game, then he misses a game. Then he's got Chicago in another game that he played, right? And in those games, we're talking about 13.5 potential assists and 8.5 dimes per game. Draymond being in actually helps him, interestingly enough, which I've known for a while, because we've been looking at with and without Draymond stats for Steph, and ever since he couldn't keep his hands to himself since the end of last season. And that Steph's numbers actually are better with Draymond on the floor, because Draymond's not taking away from Steph. They play off of each other in a way that he's more Steph's outlet. And if Steph's not getting doubled, then whenever Draymond has the ball, his first thought is Steph open, or is he about to be open? And then he's going to wait for it, right? And so once Steph gets the ball there, then he has his options. But point being, he's been back to being a true point guard. And in the 6 of the 7 that he's played without Chris Paul, who's the only dude who's taken the ball out of his hands, right, in terms of bringing it up the court or whatever. Like Steph only plays off ball when CP3 is on the floor with him. And so in 6 of 7 without him, he's gone over this number. And like I said, in all of the last 5 since CP3 went down for with the injury that he has now, we're talking about the Steph just stepping in and getting all of those assists that, like I said. So yeah, this is another good opportunity. I think they will hang with Utah for a while. I don't know when they'll stop to a degree hanging with Utah, but I do think the points will be there because Utah's offense is awesome as it's been. Defense, not so much.
Yeah, and Utah allows the second most assists to point guards on the season. They were allowing like 30 a game despite their hot streak here. Definitely a high scoring environment when you look at a 242 total. As you mentioned, yeah, like the Jazz to keep scoring and stay hot on that end. So you're gonna have plenty of points here and a free flowing game probably for Steph to get those assists. So Damian Lillard and the Bucks at Cleveland. I also think there's a bit of an over there possible. I mean, I'm not betting it, but it's 237 and the Bucks, they don't get stops. The Cavs are playing decently fast lately. They went over in 6 of their first 9 after losing Garland and Mobley. And then they played like honestly a lot of trash teams lately. They had the back-to-backs against the Wizards, etc. So maybe their defense looks better lately, but it still kind of struggles against point guards. And you know, Dame had 31 on 9 for 16 shooting at Cleveland, I will say, at the end of December. He dropped 50 in his previous meeting against them last season when they were at closer to full strength. And I mean, this is a very low total. 23.5 points I did not get to is only his prop here. I would expect it to be 1 or 2 higher, considering it's a guy who just dropped 29 and played 41 minutes in overtime against the Kings. But now the Bucks have 2 days rest. His splits are, of course, going to be better with that extra rest. And he's just been hitting this total pretty consistently. The exceptions was that ridiculous blowout against Boston, at Houston's great home defense. And then, you know, Indy has held him down, which I mentioned with Trae Young again. Like somehow Indy is incredible against these star point guards, but Cleveland is not lately without Garland being at the point of attack, with Donnie Mitchell taking on such a huge burden on offense. I just think the points will be there for Dame. You know, whether Giannis gets his or not, like they're gonna need the Robin to his Batman.
Yep, totally. Well, that's fine. That's very helpful for me because I also think Dame will score a lot of points. I also don't think he will get a lot of dimes. And the books have finally dropped his prop from 7.5 assists to 6.5 assists per game or so. Not per game, but as of late, that's been the drop there. So what I'm doing here, the 6.5 it's a good bet. It's a little bit closer to 50-50 than I'd like it to be. So because I do feel confident in the points, I'm going to same game parlay his over on the points with under on the assists, but I'm tweaking it up to 8.5. And DraftKings is really the only book that, especially this early in the day, that is offering like these alt over unders, right? Most books will offer an alt line that you have to take at that person's going to get at least that amount or more. So essentially an over, but they're on DraftKings. You can't take alt over or under. So I'm boosting this up to 8.5 assists and going under it. It's minus 400 alone, right? But we same game parlay it and it gets us to plus 118 with the over on the points. So all of that said, this is like one of those great situations where a team clearly plays a specific style of defense against the perimeter and perimeter heavy players like Dame, right? Who can also, by the way, drive to the basket and get the 11 free throw attempts that he got last game against this team. And so that is, they normally have 2 very good rim protectors in there. Now they have 1, but either way, it's still the same type of defense, which is we'll let you come to our big guys, and once you get there, you're in trouble because Evan Mobley's playing around the free throw line, and if you happen to get around him as an all defensive player, if not yet very soon, then you have to deal with Jared Allen right behind him. So that's why the pressure around the perimeter, not that good for the Cavs, who give up a bunch of threes. They do not give up assists, though. And that's similar to other teams with a similar style of play, like even the Magic, who have great rim protectors and a sea of guys that are 6'10" waiting for you if you want to get inside the three-point line. That you can shoot against them. You can't score if you're a good scoring guard and shooting guard, but the assists don't come because once you get into the lane, you get trapped. Your shooters are not as visible to you, like I said, in a sea of long arms and tall dudes. And that's the case for the Cavs as well. They limit teams to the point guards to the 4th fewest assists on the season. And in the last 10 games, which is really when they've had this iteration of their team without Garland and Mobley. Mobley's been out for longer. Garland really out for the last 9 or 10 games. they've limited teams to the fewest assists per game, 23 per game. And we've talked about it with the Bucks before. They're not an assist heavy team. They don't have a good assist percentage as a team. They don't get a lot of their scoring off of assists because it is a lot of, I don't want to call it straight my turn, your turn. There's an order to all of it, but there still is, the point is get Giannis in space, get Dame in space, and then let them cook. And that doesn't require a lot of assists, right? And point guards have not been getting assists. When I bump this up to 8.5, the last thing I'll say, 9+ assists has happened against the Cleveland a few times from point guards. Fred VanVleet actually went off. He had 17 dimes. That was really impressive. I didn't even see who was in that game for them, but whatever. Ben Simmons, remember him? He played this season. He got 9 dimes against this team before disappearing off the face of the earth. Hallie got it. Cade got it. Trey got it. Those are the only dudes, and all those dudes are diming up way more than Dame is this season. So we'll bank on Dame to continue to score, and I'll add the under assists.
Yeah, I think there's 5 or 6 active players who have posted a 2020 game, 20 points and assists, and you just named 3 of them in FEV, Halliburton and Trey. So yeah, those are the guys that can do that. Dame has not done that. He has double-digit assists once in his last what looks like 14, 15 games. So yeah. I mean, yeah, tweaking it up to 9 seems highly unlikely that he gets this, considering he had 4 last time out against the Cavs, considering the Cavs are going to limit assists in general. But Dame and Giannis will be doing a lot of scoring unassisted because that's what they do. They're superstar scorers, and they're still working on how to make the most out of each other's talent. But for the time being, they can both get theirs.
Yeah, and they will. They shot Giannis with the 22 field goal attempts last game. Dame had 16, but he had 11 free throws. So probably bump that up to about 5 or 6 more, up to 22 or so, the same as Giannis. Their usage rates basically every time they're on the floor, they're taking shots, right? So yeah, the points for sure, the assists much less. I just couldn't get a different alt over underline, right? I had to either take 6.5 or 8.5 or whatever. So I was like, look, you want to take the 6.5 or you want to make it 25 plus for Dame? You're going to juice it up to like plus 185. Be my guest. I wanted to take a nice win here with a full unit. So that's all the time we have on Play Up Props for you today on Wednesday. Continue to follow along. Subscribe to that page. Check out the Best Bets video that we also have. We're bringing you both videos each and every weekday. So until we see you next, happy betting.